Good morning. Welcome to the online Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. Our mission is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. Whoever you are, and however you came to be listening this morning, we welcome you, and we are grateful for your presence. I am Sam Bashirs, a member of our worship committee, and I will be guiding you through today's service. Our lead organizer and speaker is Janet Ravel Barrett, and she will be joined by Peggy Patton and by Aaron Dittmer, one of our newer members. They will each offer perspectives on the history and current state of our schools and what going back to school means this year. They will also offer a welcome change for my own wooden delivery. Each Sunday, we begin with a land acknowledgement of the indigenous nations of this land. Wherever you are listening, please bring to mind the indigenous peoples of your place. There will be a moment of silence after the acknowledgement. We recognize and acknowledge that we gather today on indigenous land taken through deception, coercion, and violence. We acknowledge the continued displacement and oppression of Native people and honor their commitments to survival, identity, and the protection of our world. Thank you. Our chalice lighting today is about new beginnings and hope. Even in a time of great stress and upheaval, we see people taking care of one another, working hard to do what is needed, doing their best to uphold our shared values. We see hope for new leadership and an activism that will sustain the changes needed to bring dignity and hope to every person. We're down, but we will not be kept down. Please join with me in our unison chalice lighting. Even in the darkest times, we have reason to hope. In the times of greatest need, we will do what needs to be done. In times of gloom and despair, we will not be kept down. We light this chalice as a symbol of our enduring faith, looking forward to the long and winding road that lies ahead. This is the time of year when we look to new beginnings. For many of us, it is the start of a new school year, which for students means new classes, maybe new friends, and maybe even a new school. For teachers also, it means new classes and new preparation. Even for those of us not involved in schools, it still marks the passing of the summer and the advent of a new season. And when I go to the supermarket, I'm always drawn in by the back to school displays and the lure of new pens, fresh pads of paper, and the idea of really truly organizing my office space. Just this week, I scored some 25-cent spiral bound notebooks at Meijer. We view the road ahead with anticipation and excitement. But this year is different. Never before have we faced such an unprecedented set of circumstances. The pandemic, with its isolation, confusion, and disruption of our social patterns, the catalytic Black Lives Matter movement taking hold across the globe as protesters call for eradicating long entrenched patterns of racism and injustice, and following hard on the heels of the Me Too movement, and the ongoing political crisis that has many of us worried for the survival of our country. In these times and under these circumstances, it may be difficult to recapture the innocence of new beginnings as this school year starts. For many, the road ahead is complicated and hard to map out, our steps less sure than before. This morning, we will hear three perspectives on the start of the school year. We begin with a historical perspective from Janet Revell Barrett, prompted by an opera and a Beatles tune, and with roots in the school desegregation efforts of the 1950s and 1960s. Next, we will have a contemporary perspective from Peggy Patton, a member of our congregation who has answered the call to public service by serving on the Urbana School Board, speaking to the complexities of making schools hospitable for all students. And finally, we will hear from Erin Dittmer, a new member and a teacher at Central High School whose preparations for the coming year have been dogged by uncertainty and safety concerns. We hope you enjoy this morning's service.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see.
Good morning. My name is Janet Revell Barrett, and I am pleased to serve as chair of the worship committee for this summer's services. You may wonder why a reflection on school desegregation efforts starts with a short video of Austin Cody singing Paul McCartney's song Blackbird. I promise that in my short reflection this morning, I'll reveal this mysterious connection so that you'll see its relevance to our theme for today. I start every morning by cherry-picking articles that catch my eye in the New York Times. Several years ago, this article drew my attention. The story of a contemporary composer, Tanya Leone, who was commissioned to write an opera to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the famous incident you probably know through the nickname of its central protagonists, young Black students who collectively we think of as the Little Rock Nine. Something about Leone's project piqued my curiosity. An opera about students? A musical window on this historic moment? An outgrowth of this single piece of civil rights legislation that's so often heralded, yet sadly yet to be realized. The Supreme Court's rejection of the separate but equal doctrine captured in Brown versus Board of Education. Through a colleague who'd studied with Tanya Leone, I finagled an introduction so I could speak with her by phone. She told me how she interviewed the remaining 8 of the Little Rock Nine about these experiences in the year 1957, and especially how it felt to volunteer as the first Black students to integrate Little Rock Central High School. Here she's pictured with Henry Louis Gates Jr., who served as the historical consultant for the project, alongside Tulani Davis, who turned the transcripts into the libretto for Leon's opera. In one aria, a soprano sings excerpts from the journal of Minnie Jean Brown, who, when school board members came to her Black high school, Horace Mann, to solicit volunteers for these integration efforts, courageously answered, "I raised my hand. I thought, well, why not? How hard could this be?" You may remember this historic moment in September 1957 as one incident. But in reality, the events that unfolded over the course of an entire school year show that the goal of desegregation was elusive, and that this experiment was far harder than Minnie Jean Brown or any of her brave fellow students could have imagined. The students were warned not to arrive on the first day, but when they showed up on the second day, they were greeted by an angry mob alongside 270 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who had been ordered by Governor Orville Faubus to block the entrance of the school. The night before this attempt, the parents of the students consulted by phone and, sensing the enormous danger, decided they'd meet at a designated point to walk through the crowd together that morning. All except for 15-year-old Elizabeth Eckford, whose family did not have a phone. She went to the school at the appointed time that morning to confront an angry mob on her own. She tried to enter, but was blocked by a soldier with a bayonet. And then later, she was helped onto a city bus by a bystander after enduring the jeers and taunts of the angry crowds. A few days later, the 9 were able to enter the school through a side door, but the community uproar was so intense that President Eisenhower decided to intervene by sending in the elite airborne division of the Army, who flanked the entry of the students into the school. And this image was one that captured so many persons' imaginations. The 9 students were also assured that they'd be accompanied by guards as they made their way down the hallway, and the guards would be with them throughout the year. These photos, and especially ones of Elizabeth Eckford, conveyed tensions in visceral ways that only images can, and prompted widespread reaction. Hannah Arendt, the influential political philosopher, saw the photo of Elizabeth and was moved to say that it was truly unethical to burden children, Black and white, with the working out of a problem which adults for generations have confessed themselves unable to solve. The abbreviated story of the Little Rock Nine often stops at the door of the high school, but more recent narrative accounts convey what happened next as the students faced relentless harassment and threats to their safety throughout that year. For their courage and determination, the Little Rock Nine have been heralded in many ways with medals and honorary degrees, including this stamp released in 2005. Some of the 9 went on to pursue lives of activism, such as Minnie Jean Brown Trickey, who's continued throughout her life to speak out against school segregation. In revisiting this historic moment, which perhaps only occupied a paragraph or two in my own American history textbook, we're reminded once again of the long trajectory of the struggle for educational equality, echoing the famous Martin Luther King Jr. quote that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Indeed, of the many avenues for justice that call for our persistent action, stands this societal goal of providing a school environment in which children can learn alongside one another as part of the contract of our democracy, still a work in progress. In 1961, the UUA issued a general resolution of support for Brown versus Board of Education, urging the Assembly to call upon the federal courts to implement the Supreme Court decision with speed and firmness. As you may recognize, this fight persists as schools in some parts of the U.S. have actually resegregated in the 60 years since. You may wonder how the story of the Little Rock Nine circles back to Paul McCartney's Blackbird. This is a photograph of Paul McCartney taken backstage after he played a concert in Little Rock in April 2016. He's shown here with Thelma Mothershed Ware and Elizabeth Eckford. McCartney often attributes the writing of Blackbird to seeing the dramatic photos of the integration of Little Rock Central High School as the inspiration for taking up his pen. Although there are a few fuzzy historical details about McCartney's accounts, musicologists have traced numerous times that he has prefaced his concert performances by drawing attention and mentioning the Little Rock Nine. Just as I was compelled to revisit this historic moment through my reading of the New York Times that brought me to Tanya Leon's opera, perhaps the next time you hear Blackbird, you'll be moved to recall this association of the song with the Little Rock Nine and think for a minute about the centrality of public schools in a democracy. The start of that school year in 1957 is perhaps one of the most dramatic school openings we've ever witnessed, although this year's ambiguous beginning of the year will surely be noted in history as well. Another telling connection to the late 1950s and the present is our continued search for educational equity. Crucial, vital, essential, but yet unrealized. I invite you to listen to the song again as we focus this morning on our commitment to democratic visions of public education.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You're only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise.
Each month, we share half of our Sunday offering with an organization in alignment with our values. During the month of August, we will support Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. The Illinois chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America is a nonpartisan movement to advocate for stronger gun laws. More than 36,000 people per year die in our country from gun deaths through mass shootings, suicide, domestic abuse, and accidental shootings. Solutions to gun violence are straightforward: stronger background checks, holding the gun industry accountable, removing guns from domestic abusers and suicidal people, and stopping gun trafficking and the sale of military-grade weapons. We now have a way to give quickly and easily by text and credit card, and your donation today will be shared between UUCUC and Moms Demand Action. You can also still donate online or send a check after the service. The offering will now be received.
I was asked to share a few thoughts about my service on the Urbana School Board as it relates to racial equity. I'm in my 12th year on the Urbana School Board. Each year has had unique challenges. Some challenges pertain to circumstances unique to the Urbana School District. Many challenges, however, arise from inadequacies of our system of public education. As a parent of 3 children who went to Urbana Public Schools and now a school board member, I've always been proud of the Urbana School District. The district has long supported teacher and school autonomy, which facilitated new approaches to schooling. Urbana offered before and after school programs long before other districts did so. We were the first district in the state outside of Chicago to offer a student health center. Urbana was an early adopter of dual language immersion programs for all students and restorative justice practices in response to conflict. In the fall of 2018, the Urbana School Board adopted a resolution outlining our district's commitment to racial equity. The resolution spells out our intention to recruit and retain more staff of color, to review our policies and structures through an equity lens, and to offer culturally responsive curriculum. In my few minutes this morning, I'll talk about 4 challenges that we encounter as we strive to address racial equity in the Urbana School District. And note that I'm referring to school issues we struggled with in the pre-COVID days. First challenge is recruiting professionals of color. Urbana has approximately 4,600 students in the district. 37% of our students identify as Black, 31% as white, and 15% as Hispanic. Despite our commitment to recruiting staff of color, 76% of our teachers are white, 9% of our teachers are Hispanic, and 8% of our teachers are Black. While the percentage of teachers who identify as Hispanic has grown over the last 10 years from 2 to 9% of our total, the percent of teachers who identify as Black has barely budged from 7 to 8% over the last 10 years. The reason for the seemingly immutable challenge in hiring teachers of color, the reasons, are varied. The teacher shortage is a serious matter across our state and nation. Enticing education professionals of color to come to Central Illinois, where salaries are significantly lower than urban districts, is difficult. But the HR professionals in Urbana tell me that there's another reason. If they entice teachers of color to work for our district, they often leave because of the limited number of young professionals of color in our community to network and socialize with outside of work. We're developing a more intensive Grow Your Own mentoring program for our high school students that we hope will help move the needle on recruiting staff of color for our district. Second is the challenge that accompanies poverty. 72% of the students in Urbana schools are considered low income, the preponderance of whom are our students of color. There are many educational challenges that accompany high poverty. Mobility is one of them. Mobility refers to the rate that students move in and out of a school district during the year. Access to affordable housing is one of the main reasons that families move in and out of school districts. Our district's student mobility rate is 15%, with some Urbana schools as high as 20%. That means a fifth of the students in that school have transferred in or out of our district at least once during the school year. When students move in and out of our district during a school year, it is difficult to establish relationships or get any traction on academic progress, 2 critical aspects of racial equity. A third challenge is the growing list of expectations on schools. Expectations of our schools have grown tremendously over the years. Our schools not only provide transportation, breakfast, lunch, and dinner meals, accommodations to serve special education and English language learner populations, but also bus, pedestrian, and bike safety education, computer and internet education, anti-bullying programs, education on the roles of the LGBT community and history, to name just a few of recently added school mandates. While many of these services and programs have merit, many do not come with new funding, nor have we lengthened our school day or school year to incorporate these new programs and services. Along with the growing number of unfunded mandates is the revolving door of education reforms that have burdened our schools. There was No Child Left Behind under President George W. Bush, Race to the Top under President Obama, and the Common Core Standards that were introduced in 2010. Each reform subjected students to endless rounds of test prep and test taking. They also demoralized our teachers who were being evaluated and penalized in ways that were unfair and rigid. All of these reforms were happening against a backdrop of decreased public funding for schools. Despite our state's legal obligation to be a primary funder of public education, the state of Illinois contributes 27% of the total current operating revenue in each school district. 7% of public school funding comes from the federal sources, and the rest, 66%, comes from local sources, our property taxes. When our elected officials in Springfield or in Washington dictate education policy and curriculum, It undermines the power of local districts to address policy, procedure, and curriculum that we identify as priorities, such as racial equity. A final challenge for our public schools is the steady march toward privatization, which is manifested by the increase in publicly funded, privately managed charter schools. While charters are increasing more in urban areas than in smaller communities like Champaign and Urbana, their growth diverts public funds from our underfunded system of public education. Vouchers and tax credits to pay for private schools also redirect K-12 public dollars for private schools. These privatization measures increase segregation of students in our schools and is among the reasons why national groups such as the NAACP have called for a moratorium on charter schools. In conclusion, I don't offer these challenges as excuses for not achieving greater gains in racial equity in Urbana schools, but rather as an eye-opening reality check to those who care about achieving greater racial equity in our public schools. Despite these challenges, I continue to be hopeful and draw inspiration serving a school district that identifies racial equity as central to its mission. As a postscript to my remarks today, I will be stepping down from the Urbana School Board at the end of my third term in April. My intentions to step down after my third term were set long before COVID. So please talk to me if you're interested in serving on the school board and if you live in Urbana Subdistrict 5. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sherry Baldwin, Director of Congregational Engagement here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana, Champaign. Each Sunday, as a part of our Sunday service, we share joys and sorrows that have been shared with us by members and friends. We like to share our joys so that fellow members and friends can help us to celebrate those happy times in our lives. And we share our sorrows so that fellow members and friends can support us through those tough times that come to the lives of each of us. This morning, I have a few joys and sorrows to share with you. First, a joy from Sam Bashirs. Sam writes, "My father, Daniel Bashirs, turned 92 on Thursday, and he still loves a bad pun." I'm sensing a family trait there, Sam. Many, many blessings to your father. And now from Christine Cahill, a sorrow and a joy. First, the sorrow. Christine writes, "Our beloved 19-year-old tabby cat, Faust, is no longer filling our house with cat conversation. I lived with Faust longer than any person in my life, including my dear children." I'm so sorry for your loss, Christina. I understand how deeply we love our animal friends. And now a joy from Christine. Our great joy occurred on the very same day that we lost Faust, Friday morning, August 13. Our daughter, Colleen, and son-in-law, Tony, welcomed Jack Cahill Calabro into the world 4 weeks early. Jack was 5 pounds, 9 ounces, and did not need to be admitted to the neonatal intensive care unit. The new family will be all together in hospital in Denver and should go home on Sunday. Husband Michael and I are thrilled to become grandparents. I share your great joy, Christina. Grandchildren are a great blessing. And one more joy from the Paul Kaiser family. Paul writes, "Sharing my household's joy at seeing the expressive piano playing of Sam G. return to the August 9 service. Sam, your energy is appreciated." Thank you, Paul, for holding up accolades for Sam G. I join you in that appreciation. And now, if you'll please join me, in a moment, of silence, meditation, or prayer. Many blessings.
May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way home. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure, pure light that's within you guide your way
Hi, my name is Erin Dittmer, and I teach freshman English and AP Language at Champaign Central High School. I really love my job. Nothing makes me happier or feel more fulfilled than being in a classroom filled with students working together to make sense of a text, analyze an argument, or debate about what's going on in the world. Usually in August, I'm setting up my classroom. I'm putting up posters, I'm hanging plants from my ceiling, setting up reading nooks and shared bookshelves, excited to welcome students back to school. This year is obviously really different. Until recently, I didn't know who, what, where, or how I'd be teaching. I've been feeling uncertain, frustrated, angry, and honestly, scared. As we navigate and negotiate how to return to school, the plans have been ever shifting. In Champaign, first we were doing a hybrid model, so I started planning for that. I panic bought face shields decorated with cute dancing strawberries. I started having recurring nightmares about being back in school, struggling to move through crowded hallways. I agreed to teach summer school online so I could be better prepared for the school year. Then I kind of wrapped my head around that, and then it changed. We shifted to only inviting our most vulnerable students back into the school. So these are students who get special education services or come from low-income households. I felt really conflicted about this because, yes, these are the students who need the resources of a school the most. However, we also know that low-income families and communities of color have already borne a disproportionate and unfair burden in this pandemic. We know that because of systemic racism, that Black and brown students are more likely to come from situations of poverty. We also know that students of color are overrepresented in special education. So why, in a moment that as a culture and a community, we are affirming that yes, Black lives matter, are we going to put these already at-risk students in a situation of even greater risk? On one hand, I don't want anyone to fall behind, whatever that means. But on the other hand, I don't want anyone to pick up the virus in my classroom and bring it home to grandma and grandpa. I went up to the North Woods of Minnesota with my family a few weeks ago. I hadn't seen my parents or brother and sister since December. It was really special to spend a week fishing and hiking with them, but it was also really hard to say goodbye. I hugged my mom and we cried because we didn't know when the next time we'd be able to see each other again was. Once I was back in the classroom, I couldn't in good conscience go back to Oak Park for a visit or the holidays. My parents are relatively young and healthy. They're still both in their 60s. Well, my mom is 59, she's not 60 yet, but still, they're of an age where I wouldn't feel comfortable going home if I had been exposed. I could never forgive myself if I gave them the virus. Being exposed to around 750 students every day, I was prepared to go back into quarantine when I wasn't at work. When I got home, things changed again, and now we're starting 100% remote for the first quarter. I have a better handle on who and what I'm teaching, but I still don't know for sure where, and I certainly don't know how I'm going to do it yet. It's frustrating that this decision was made just 2 weeks before students return to school, leaving teachers very little time to scramble and plan. I still have really big questions about how this is going to work. Right now, my room assignment is second floor East Landing. So who knows, I might be teaching in a stairwell this year. I'm committed to figuring it out and making it work. I'm committed to providing my students with the best experience and education that I can. I've been thinking a lot about that quote, "A good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself to light the way for others." I despise this quote. I don't want to be consumed. I'm the best teacher I can be when I'm also taking care of myself, when I'm feeding my spirit and my creativity, when I make room for play and joy outside of my job. I'm the best teacher I can be when I'm healthy and feel safe. I became a teacher because I want to serve my community. I became a teacher to be a force for good. Kids need to be in school. Teachers need to be in school. But we also deserve to be safe. I didn't become a teacher to be a martyr, although I know some people think that's in the job description. When I see calls online to force teachers back into the classroom, to cut our pay, telling us to stop whining and just do your job, it really feels like society is asking teachers to be consumed. But I'm not disposable, and I don't want to be consumed. What's keeping me going in these uncertain times is my colleagues and my students. I work with an incredible group of people that I know will do whatever it takes to make this year work. My phone and email have been absolutely blowing up all summer with brainstorms and collaboration over creative solutions for hybrid and now remote learning. In the spring, teachers' hands were tied by district guidelines that made it really hard to keep kids accountable and engaged. This fall will be different. It has to be. I was at Harvest Market the other day, and I ran into a student. She said she recognized my voice from the aisle over and just had to come say hello. This was a student who I watched blossom last year. Freshman year is challenging for everyone, and this student certainly faced her share of obstacles, but she made it through with confidence and grace. I'm so proud of this kid. It was great to see her. Parents, I know your kids are your kids, but once they're in my class, I secretly think of them as a little bit mine too. It meant so much to me that she went out of her way to say hi to her dorky English teacher and almost started crying in the chocolate aisle. I've been missing my students a lot, but seeing that student in person put that ache into sharper relief. The relationships we build in the classroom are so important. It's why I do this job. It's why I spend my evenings planning lessons and my weekends grading essays. I really hope, even though we're starting this year online, we can finish it in person. So what is it like to be a teacher right now? It's a roller coaster. The ground is always shifting beneath my feet. But despite the uncertainty and the fear, I'm feeling so grateful for the solidarity of my union, the support of my colleagues, and the flexibility and patience of students and families. This is hard for everyone. This is not ideal for anyone. I'm committed to giving this year my all. I promise to find the bright side in all of this. No matter what, I know the school year will be one for the books.
And now, please join in singing hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For each life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
The views of education we've explored this morning, past, present, and future, amplify our concerns in the moment. As this school year begins, in more formats than ever before, and with greater uncertainty than we have ever experienced, we hold all those involved in education in our hearts. We think of the safety of children and students of all ages, hoping that their bright curiosities will find expression through the year. We recognize the difficulties that parents face as they grapple with decisions on behalf of their children, and hoping to grant them discernment as they figure out the paths that make sense for their children. We hold up in gratitude and support all teachers who meet instructional challenges with resourcefulness and grace, and who, in spite of their own fears, lean toward the bright side as they welcome their students with hospitality. We acknowledge the difficult decisions administrators must make as they keep the common good in mind while they balance competing community interests. We place trust in policymakers as they work around, as Peggy said, the inadequacies of the system to craft educational policy that will shape our schools and communities for years to come. May all who participate in the education of our youth find joy in learning and teaching, and may they as well be safe and healthy and well protected as they do so. I want to take just a minute to acknowledge the contributions of Peggy Patton, Aaron Dittmer, and Sam Bashirs in this service, and also to acknowledge Sam Ginger, who has provided such wonderful music for us throughout this entire summer. Gratitude to all those who've served on the worship committee, our technical team who have done their magic behind the scenes, and all the participants who've organized services in this summer of streaming and worship at a distance. We're grateful that these technological capabilities have made our human connections possible. We hope you found a sense of blessed community, even in this fashion.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.